Howdy folks, today let's talk about the Tanchjim Kara. Just to say this right away, I'm a pretty big Tanchjim fan since the original Oxygens. I owned those for a few years and was always looking for another pair of Tanchjims to beat those. The Tanchjim Tanyas, I got those and actually really like those. Got about 4 pairs of those. They're just like my beater pairs, but highly interested to try these Karas. I actually wanted to try the Prisms, but it hasn't happened yet. So in any case, these are one dynamic driver, which is a Peak plus PU suspension, I believe, and 4 balanced armatures. We can see here that the mid BAs are Sonian 2389Ds. So those are sort of in the red bore there. Then we got the treble drivers, 2 of those, which have a little Tanchjim logo embossed on them. I don't know what those are off the top of my head. Probably people with more knowledge about balanced armatures would be able to pick that out just by the way they look. 3D printed shell, very, very, very nice actually. And a very, very long bore actually. Just to show people this, let's see, I'll pull out a piece of Olina's. Sorry about the ear cheese. These are just modified that I've been messing with. But yeah, if you see the bore got like, you know, really long comparatively. So what ends up happening for these for me is that I have to do something close to this. Put the tip and get it pretty much, well, that works and I can get a good seal, but and I'll get into this, but I actually like the tonality if I shove that all the way down the bore and then try and get the nozzle itself like basically around my second bend in my ear canal. Unfortunately though, if you look at the tip there, here, let me pull this off. That's actually really rather sharp. You know, I know it's 3D printed and all that, but like they could have just rounded that edge off just for, you know, ergonomics. If it does hit the inside of your ear, it hurts. So I just want to mention that. Bass bore is a little tiny one, and the treble bore has the, I believe, white damper, and the red one is the mid bore, just to say that. Crossover is cool, and you can see it, which is very cool. You can see kind of off to this side the back dynamic driver damper. Then there's a bypass vent from the front of the dynamic to the back with this little tube here. And so then that vents out some amount of bass out of this vent. And immediately when I saw that, when I was checking it out, and by the way, I don't see a damper on that tube. Like I looked and I don't see one. So it's like they're venting out, I don't know, maybe half the bass or something like that with this vent. So I just figured, hell, I'll tape over that. And you know, there might be some other air leaks, for sure there is, but in fact, that little bit of tape changes the tonality of these to where I like them more, just to mention that. And you might be saying, well, you know, in that case, then they're not fully vented, so then there's pressure buildup. No, they're leaking air out of somewhere, you know, back shell, 2-pin somewhere, so I don't get any pressure buildup. So that's a legit mod on these. I didn't really want to do much more, but because these came from Apos Audio, thanks guys for sending me these for a review. And I don't want to modify them, you know, they are what they are, but I just thought I'd show people that you could modify them with that little piece of tape and get some more bass and probably a little bit better tonality. All right, let's switch over to my desktop. I have many things going on here. Let me get rid of some of this. All right, first off, let's go over APOS Audio's. Let me get over here. Their listing for these, $180 right there. And, they said a lot of what I just said here. 3D printed, blah, blah, blah. It's a 3-way crossover, by the way. 3 bores. That's so just in case people care. You could, in fact, do a more frequency divisions, as they're calling it here, but crossovers, and put those into less bores. But for maximum resolution and playback, you would want to have a bore for each of the crossover frequency divisions, just to mention that. The cable on this, I didn't pull it out. Let me see. I don't have it handy. Wait. Yeah, I do. Hang on. Let me find it. Because people might want to know, Okay, so here's the cable, and I'm not really a huge fan of this cable. It's not bad. Here, let me flip over. And a little bit. There we go. All right, so it's a Litz woven cable. Litz apparently is a special type of weave for cables. And it's a little thick and a little bit stiff for my tastes, but it is a nice cable, and it's thinnish, so I don't mind it like that. And as a musician, I could probably rock this cable, stick it behind my shirt, and be okay. But it is a bit thick, so if these are like tapping on something, you're probably going to hear it in the headphones, just to mention that. All right. Just wanted to go over that. Case is quite nice. Yeah, not going to worry about that. All right. Other things that may matter. Let me just put these back on video here. Cool. All right. Other things that could possibly matter. Let me just go over some notes here, because I've made a lot of notes. And I got some graphs and things. Let me just get this out of the way. All right, so $180. One dynamic, 10 millimeter. 4 balanced armatures, 2 of which are Sonyans. The other 2 I don't know. They have a 27 ohm impedance and a 115 dB per VRMS. So combine these two things, and basically these take quite a bit of power. On my phone, for instance, I've got to crank that thing up to near max. LG quad DAC. It's sort of like my baseline type of thing. And so they take quite a bit of power, probably more than folks might expect, because probably the 27 ohm, although they are fairly sensitive, but it's got a bit of impedance going on. As far as the build and everything, 3D resin printed shell, very, very nice, very high quality. Plastic back plate that was made some other way, I'm sure. Long bores, which are too long, in fact, for me. I just can't get them deep into my ears and get a seal. And the sharp edges make it a little bit tougher, but they are easy to fit, as I showed with just like normal wide bore tips, but you can't get them deep. I would say deep insertion takes the edge off the high mids and low treble. And just to go over that right here, here's a graph. And so that's a deep insertion on my coupler, and that's the green graph. The blue graph is just sort of like a quote-unquote standard insertion depth. And you get some funny different peaks in here, but you can clearly see that the high mids and treble dip off a lot harder with a deeper fit. And I believe that for this headphone, they really wanted that to happen, but I can't make it happen for my ear canals. They're too small for the size of bores, which are about, I want to say, heck, I could test it, but they're probably about 5.5 millimeter bores, actually. I'm gonna go ahead and check that, because they're actually on the larger size to where it could be an issue for folks. So I got my little calipers here, and let's see what we can see. Holy shit. All right, I was off. It's 6.2 millimeters, so very, very wide bores, and that could be a problem. And like I said, I don't know why they didn't round the tips of these bores off a little bit to make them a little more ergonomic. And I honestly think they could have shrunk them down quite a bit, because it's only 3 bores, right? But in any case, very nice fit, or I should say, very nice finish and build. And they are small, pretty, and light, and I appreciate that sort of thing. I don't really like heavy in-ears, just because I do active things that it bothers me. So that. All right. And yes, the IEM is completely vented, just to mention that, with that little bypass tube on the dynamic driver. So that means that as you insert these, you won't get a pressure buildup. And again, if you tape the vent on the back of these guys, it won't affect that particular thing. So you can do that if you wanted to do that mod. Moving over to sound, and you're going to see this is quite a mid set, mid in a lot of different ways. So bass, we're going to give a 7.5 out of 10. The bypass vent, in my estimation, actually rolls off a bit more of the mid bass, leaving the subs intact, which is interesting. But I prefer it with more mid bass, so I prefer those vents taped. And the overall bass tonality, it hits fairly deeply. The textures are okay, not the best. They're not top of the line. And also, I don't find them to be extremely separated in bass frequencies, like left to right. So some headphones do that, and you get this really nice wide bass thing going on, and these don't do that. It's more of a monotone bass, just to mention. So we'll give it a 7.5 out of 10. It's good and not excellent. Moving on to mids, a 7.5 out of 10. See how this is going. Pretty good, and yet too much. And, you know, from this graph, we're looking at, let's see, 67, I think, what is that, 8 dB? Yeah, about 8 dBs of pin gain, centered around 2.5, well, but 2.6, something like that. And kind of the thing about that is, for some reason, these sound more like they have more mid gain than they do. So that's interesting. But the deeper the fit, the less mid gain you're going to get, and I believe the better they're going to sound for you overall. But again, you're going to have some pretty wide ear canals to make that work. And yeah, I can't make them stay deep for me. They just end up squirting themselves out of my ear canals. So anyway, treble, we're going to give a 7 out of 10. Deeper fit means actually better OCDs. I believe you can hear the twinkles a little bit better the deeper you get them. Mids drop back a little bit, just kind of falls into place a little better. But I can't make that happen consistently, so we're going to give it a 7 out of 10. Sorry. Resolution, we'll give a 7 out of 10. Balanced armature treble, it's good. It ain't the best, but it's fine. And for the overall tuning, I find it, fine. We'll just call it fine. Stage wideness, we're going to give a 6 out of 10. And in fact, it's not super wide. That's with a normal fit when it's a bit shallow because of the bores and such. If I deep fit them, I do actually get a bit of more wideness. I'm suspecting that maybe the treble is a little easier to hear, and then you get a little more of the spatial cues, something like that. Stage depth, we're going to give a 7 out of 10. Like normal, decent stage depth. Deeper fit, you get a little bit extra, 7.5 out of 10. As you can tell, we're getting a lot of mid, good to mid. Like, in my mind, mid is not going to be like a 5 out of 10. That's actually like average, which in this entire hobby, average isn't great. But anyway, 7 out of 10, good, not wonderful. For the depth, and then the stage 3D, 7 out of 10. Just lots of 7s, man. Transients, I just thought I'd talk about that because folks asked me a bit. So they have a little bit of BA tendencies. So in the uppers, the upper mids, low treble, you do hear a bit of like that sort of harsh transient smack, depending on the track. But Tanchjim actually does a reasonably good job at this, and so they have a reasonably organic tonality compared to, I don't know, I've heard plenty of balanced armature sets that really have way too much transient attack, and it kind of draws you out of the music comparatively, just to say that. And X Factor is not going to have much of this. I don't find them to be super fun. They don't, wow and shock me on tracks. They're just producing the music just straight up. So overall, they did miss the mark for my tastes. A little bit too mid-centric. Sound isn't wide enough. Bass could be, I don't know about a ton better, but it could be better. And again, the little mod I did makes it a little better. And then the Oxygen, the Tanchjim Oxygen, which is like the gold standard for a lot of folks for like a dynamic driver, actually I think sounds better than these. And it's $100 more, so maybe they priced it right. I'd say that. Music playback, blues, and you're going to find that overall these actually play pretty much all my library good. Some better than other stuff. But the key thing here is they play most of my library good. That's already a winner in my book. So we'll get into that. Blues, excellent. Mids hit perfectly for tracks. Bass has the right amount of low end, and sparklies aren't too much. So blues hit real nice. Classical is a thick hair on some tracks, I suppose, due to the it's got fairly fat bass shelf there, down in these lower parts. But I enjoyed it a lot. The The mid-range really pulled it off. You get the instruments sound fairly correct. And when they're the center of the mix and the focus, you get that, so really nice. And the treble wasn't too sparkly to draw your attention away from the meat on the bones, so classical cool. Disco, I don't know, the mids on disco, because a lot of the stuff is older mixed, it's got a lot of mids, and I found to be just too much for a lot of tracks. Wasn't bad, and it works, and you can enjoy it, but if I'm nitpicking, which I am, I want less mids for disco. Electronica, probably half and half. Some tracks actually sounded massive and really nice, and all of the like EDM stuff that you would want, and some were a little bit too mid-focused, which I suppose would mean also that not only the mid-range but center-focused, not quite as much like wideness and depth to some of these tracks than I would like, but I'm not going to say that it was bad for it. It's just, like I said, I'm nitpicking. I'm a huge Tanchjim fan, so I kind of went a little bit deep on this. I don't know, comparatively. Anyways, jazz, actually great. I liked it a lot. The bass shelf for stand-up basses and things like that, just friggin' excellent. The mids were fairly in the pocket. Everything was just right for jazz. Moving on to probably the big one everyone wants to know. Like, I have a lot of followers, or I don't know, I hate to be an influencer, but a lot of people that watch my reviews and listen to metal, more than I would have expected. So we're going to call it pretty okay. I personally tune sets better than this for metal, as folks might guess, but this is this. I prefer a little bit less high mids for the upper end of guitar. Like that sizzle is a little bit much on some stuff. And a little less meat on the bones than I maybe would have preferred for some stuff. But they have enough mid-bass to pull off. They add some meat to the guitars. Kick drums are present. Nice. Guitars do have a nice chunk to them in textures. I would prefer a little bit more chunk. But after some time, I get fatigued due to the high mids. And actually, that is exactly the same on the Oxygen for me. That's why I ended up selling them. It's just that after like 3 or 4 hours, they ended up hitting me a little bit too hard, and I'd have to turn the volume down or just relax my ears, take them out. So R&B, very good. Good. I think it was pretty good. High mids on some tracks, but that was rare because R&B isn't really a high mid type of genre. But the bass was excellent. Nice boom to rap stuff. Overall, the upper frequencies had a nice bite to them to go with the nice bass. So R&B was good. Reggae was good. Vocals quite nice. Sometimes a bit strong in volume, but overall the vocals were correct, and I like them a lot. Male vocals, female vocals, excellent. Reggae, apart from one folks might think is actually extremely vocal centric. Yes, you got a lot of bass and you need that to go with everything, but the vocals are generally the center of attention on a lot of tracks. So you got, harmonizing males, and I actually have some female reggae artists. Dawn Penn, there's one off the top of my head, a couple others. Just love that stuff, man. Absolutely adore it. So reggae good, vocals good. And it did vocals pretty good. A little bit strong in volume, but again, you could sing along, cool. Rock, pretty good. I could nitpick some tracks, but overall, especially for the more modern mixes with a little bit less mid-range focus, I found rock to be pretty good, and I can enjoy just about all of my library. Soundtracks had good stage and they were good. The stage depth was okay, wideness was okay, but soundtracks really like to have that stuff pop, right? Maybe like X Factor. And so it was enjoyable, but not the best I've heard, but fine. Vaporwave, about half and half. Some of the tracks are like incredibly mid-centric, and this just whacked me in the face with those. Some tracks were really nice and deep and reverby and things like that. So half and half, probably. On Vaporwave, Vintage Lounge, good to excellent. And some of the tracks that vintagey stuff just were a lot of mids and really not a lot of treble and bass, so those didn't hit me quite as nicely. You get where I'm going with this. This is like a mid set all the way down. Whoops. So yes, this is a mid set with mid price and mid performance. I don't hate it at all. Plays almost all of my library. X Factor is quite low. I would wish that they had pulled something off there. But And also the stage isn't super deep or wide. Mids can overwhelm certain tracks. Treble is quote unquote fine. And so we arrive at, do I recommend it? And the answer is, I'm going to say no. And just for myself, I can't fit these things. They drive me actually slightly insane to get them in my ears. And I can hear, better stage and mids and everything when I get them deep, and then they slide out and it drives me insane. So I'm not going to recommend them, but they're not a bad set. And overall, I mean, Tanchjim certainly has a thing going on there. I like their tuning pretty well so far. And wish that they had, I don't know, feel like they tripped at the finish line just a little bit on these guys. Fell on their face. But they're cool. I don't mind them. Right on. Have a good one. Talk to you on the next one.